Hey everybody, it's Ed here, and welcome to this Module 6 live webinar, or if you're watching it after the fact, it's not live, but it can be very interesting. And indeed, what makes this so interesting is very meta today, because Module 6 is all about doing exactly what we do now, webinars. And I've got to say that particularly when you're starting out, if you can get comfortable with doing webinars, and of course you've got all of the tools available to you in Market Pro Max to do exactly what we're doing now. In fact, I'm flying solo today because the team is away, but that's cool because the tools are so easy to use. I'm actually using them to run this event while I'm doing the webinar myself. It's such a simple process, and it's wonderful, and it's a huge feature. I think doing the webinars in particular, this is something Module 6, you might recall in the last Module 4 and Module 5, we showed you processes that you might want to not do necessarily straight away or relatively soon, right? Because you need to build up your list. You need to get those, first 1,000 people on your email list, and you need to start building that up. But I've got to say, webinars are a fantastic thing to do at any time with any size list, because for a number of reasons. One, it's a wonderful value way of educating a market, and importantly, as you guys can do right now, you can get live feedback from the people who are interested in you most. Because if you show up to a webinar, and thank you everybody for showing up to this webinar, you can actually see and get all of this fantastic information, and you can get that feedback from people through questions. And again, to remind you, if you have a question, please feel free to pop that question on the question box there, and I will personally answer that. And I've got my little live event control window, which you're going to learn all about in this week's module, and all the questions pop up there. I see we've got a few already, which is fantastic, and so we'll go through those as well. And now, we do a lot of webinars in this neck of the woods in online marketing. You, of course, would, because it's such a key part of the strategy. But what's super exciting to me is for so many of you watching this who are in all sorts of different niches, webinars are not something that's an obvious used tool. And thanks to tools like Google Hangouts, which I'm using to do this, and so I can show you what's going on in my screen, and I can do a PowerPoint presentation or a keynote presentation if I want. There are so many cool things that you can do. Most markets haven't seen this, and they're just such an amazing way to communicate with your market. They can also be a good mechanism for launching things as well, which is its own skill set as well, which we will talk about in this module as well. But I really like them for just as a way of staying in touch with your market. Doing a webinar each month or every couple of weeks in your market just on the issues of those last couple of weeks. Because remember, once you record this, there are so many things that you can do. It's killing a number of birds with one stone. Because what do we do with this? Well, we obviously record it, and Google makes that incredibly easy. It goes up onto YouTube. This doesn't. It's a private webinar, but if it's a public one, you can put it up onto YouTube automatically. It literally goes there straight away. You can then embed that in your own blog. You could then take the recording of that and make it a podcast. There are so many powerful elements to all of this. When you see it really is a case of using, doing something once and being able to use it many, many times. So I think it really is a marvelous thing to do. And as I say, something the quicker you can get used to it and practice with it, the better off you'll be. So this is definitely something that you could do in the next couple of weeks. And thanks to Market Pro Max and Ultimate Product System, we make it so easy. Indeed, what you could do is that you could do a series of live webinars over, say, 6 weeks, for example, and all of a sudden that could be your giveaway product, or that could be your entry gateway tripwire or value product for your Madcast. You could interview people. Google Hangout has the ability to have more than one person on. We're not doing that now, but it's very easy to do. And all of a sudden, this is something that you can very quickly make really interesting product with. You could get this transcribed, for example. it's so cost effective now. I remember when I used to have to pay, a couple of $100 a pop to get a transcription of an hour's worth of this type of thing. For this, I can pay somewhere between $5 and $7 to get it transcribed. So these are all wonderful, wonderful things that you can do that all generate out of the webinar. So let's take you through today's module, and then we'll answer your questions at the end of this. So again, using this webinar technology, let's go into Ultimate Product System. We'll hit the old screen share here. Here we are, and click share. And boom, there we are. We've got our screen up and running, and so let's go and have a look at all of the topics here in Module 6. So we go into a webinar overview, and of course the first part and the first job of doing a webinar is actually to get people to turn up. There's a process of creating a pre-webinar funnel. And we take you through that funnel, and then what we do is actually we show you the actual emails and the sequence of emails that we suggest that we've learned over time, and many of our colleagues in internet marketing have figured out will help the most to get people to a webinar. And like I said, in markets that are not so used to webinars, you get stacks of people turning up. It is really fantastic, and you add value, and people will love it. So then we show you the webinar funnel and the tools to set all of that up. And what's great is you've got all the tools you need. Everything that we're doing right now, the web page, the questions, the management, the going live, the recording, all of that is pre-built in to Market Pro Max, which is just fantastic. And it works with a number of systems, by the way. It works with GoToWebinar and works with Google Hangouts, as we will show you shortly. Then, of course, as we've done in all of our modules, is we've got this fantastic PDF framework for you. So you can go through like a checklist when you're thinking about running and setting up your own webinar. It's really excellent. So that's all there for you. Then we take the two most popular platforms. We look at GoToWebinar and Google Hangouts and show you how to set up webinars and run webinars in each. I've got to say, personal preference for me right now is to use Google Hangouts. Main reason, it's free. And if you get big, GoToWebinar has a 1,000-person limit, and it's quite, if you aren't grandfathered in under the old prices, it can be quite expensive. So I would certainly, if you haven't got a preference, I would probably go with Google Hangouts as my option for starting out. And it works with mobile devices. There are special Hangout apps for all of the different platforms. So it really makes it, as I say, and they keep improving it all the time. So I'm a big fan of using Google Hangouts, and but some of you may have GoToWebinar, and it certainly works with that. We use GoToWebinar for years prior to putting all of this together. So we go in and we show you literally how we set this up. So how to create it, setting up the live event page, running the live event, and recording your Hangout, just like I'm doing right now. And to prove the point, I'm doing it all by myself. Oh, that's a great song title. But it's so easy. It's simple. In fact, I don't know why I wasn't doing this myself earlier. John will be thrilled because he's usually getting up early to do this. It's easy. Cinch. And we show you exactly how to do that in our classic step-by-step fashion. So these are all the mechanics, of course, of running the webinar, but then there's all of the things that we want you to do to set up in terms of the webinar funnel pages. So we show you how to create a thank you page. So when people sign up, there's a thank you page. We also show you how to set up your webinar registration, because it can be a great list building exercise. If you're doing a webinar with a great topic, or you're interviewing a cool influencer in your niche, people will sign up from everywhere, and it's a great list building opportunity. So you want to be able to do that. And of course the sales funnel for doing that. And also for a lot of particularly sales webinars where you're actually selling a product on the webinar itself, you want to provide replays. Actually, you can have replays for any reason, but you definitely for people, because not everybody can turn up. People are very, very busy, even if they want to watch your stuff. So having a replay page is a very good idea. Also, pre-record. So, you may have information that you want prior to people turning up. This is a very popular, very effective strategy. Whereas, if people are interested right now, you can maybe send them to something that's been pre-recorded that is extra material or gets them pre-framed and really ready for the upcoming webinar. I suppose the point is that what we've done here in terms of Market Pro Max and Ultimate Product System is that we've really tried to deliver everything, right? We've really tried to deliver everything so that it could be the most basic webinar, or it could be a really sophisticated sales launch style webinar. You've got the whole gamut here. You don't have to pay another cent to do it, particularly if you're using Google Hangouts, for example. So really, really cool module. And as I say, this is, as I said, modules 4 and 5 are things that you might want to do down the track. I'd really encourage you to do a webinar as soon as you're comfortable. Even if it's a, it's a PowerPoint presentation style one, you don't have to put your face on screen. You can just use the Keynote window and just go through the Keynote window. It's up to you, but it's such a powerful mechanism. It works so well, and getting that live feedback through questions is just fantastic, because it's telling you what parts of your presentation maybe need more explanation, or what people are particularly interested in, or what they're not interested in. It's a way of getting fabulous feedback, and that's what's so awesome about all of this and what Market Pro Max is doing for you here. So, speaking of questions, let's head back. Let's hit stop here and pop back to me for a second. There we are. Howdy. And now I'm going to the event control module, which again we're going to show you exactly how to use to answer questions for you guys. So let's have a look at that. Now, Fergus has asked, I'm still getting my content together and do not envisage being ready to implement the Market Pro Max section for at least another 8 weeks. I assume I will still have access to the UPS training area. Can you please confirm? Oh, of course. Yes, absolutely. It's here for as long as the internet's up and we're still going and everything. It's available to you. So yes, don't stress if you can't get to it in the next few weeks. Yeah, we're around, so don't stress about that, Fergus. No problems whatsoever. Now, what's cool here is once I've answered a question, I can delete the question and I can move on to the next one, which is really, really cool. I can actually also export questions in this live event control module. So, for example, you could share it on a Google Doc. So, for example, if there are multiple people on the call answering questions in your webinar, you may want to use a Google Doc so everybody can see the questions and help answer them, which is typically what we do. Although, as I say, today, to prove how cool this stuff is, I'm flying solo and doing this. So next question here from Dean. How do you redirect from an opt-in page to a sales page or a thank you page? Well, that is, again, covered in Module 3, where we show you how to set up your funnel sequences. So if you set up that opt-in page, and once they opt in, you will actually have a piece of code in the opt-in page which says once they've opted in, go to this page, and that would send them to a sales page or a thank you page. And again, it's all step by step with the Market Pro Max system, so it's just a matter of telling it where you want to go and putting in that particular URL. I know there are a lot of Magcasters who are UPS members, and you'll be thrilled to know that this is actually just recently, in the last week, we have what we call in-page opt-in, which means people don't even go out of the magazine page to a web page. Why do we do that? In those cases, we don't want to interrupt a person's reading experience. If we take them out of the reading experience, they're more likely to go off. Remember, the calls for our attention for awesome stuff is massive. So anytime people lose concentration, they could be off looking at something else. It's squirrel syndrome, right? So we don't want that. So in Magcast in particular. Whereas if they're on a web page, they're expecting to go somewhere else. Again, the whole thing with Market Pro Max is you can go as complex or as simple as you like. But just have a look at the Module 3 frameworks, and that'll show you specifically, it shows you how to set in your opt-in page, how to set up your sales page or your delivery page if you're delivering something after the opt-in, for example. And then once you've delivered something, maybe you'll go to a thank you page or a social media page or whatever you happen to do. Again, it'll show you through those directions. Now, the next one is, with YouTube videos, can you select a video postage URL to show? Now, I'm not sure what you're asking. You can certainly create your own custom images and use those as the thumbnails, which will show, and we do that. We make sure we put a really dirty big play icon, because on a number of platforms videos won't automatically play, so you have to remind people to hit the middle of the video to play. So you might have to even have click here to play, and it'll have a template. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you'll just take whatever YouTube chooses, and YouTube's pretty cool now. It gives you a number of different thumbnails to choose from. That may be fine for what you're doing, but if you want to be a little bit more scientific about it, you can create your own custom thumbnail. So that's no problem, and you can use that. I hope that's answering your question, because you certainly can do that. The next question that we have here is, on a product launch, can the launch sales page be part of the launch pad, or does it need to be separate from the launch pad? Well, if you're doing a product launch, then it's all part of the launch pad process. However, to restate your question slightly different way, you could easily create a one-page standalone product page, which we teach you how to do which teach you how to design in Module 2 and build in Module 3. You can absolutely have it separate. So, for an example, you might have a launch sequence. We might have a launch sequence like we taught you last week for Ultimate Product System. And then we decide that we want to just make it available to sell. You know, people can wander along and sell. We would create a separate page outside of the launch pad to direct people directly, because they're obviously not in the launch pad sequence. And it's pretty easy to copy one page, right? So you could easily set that up as a separate page. So again, the whole idea with Market Pro Max is to try and make it incredibly simple, but also make it really useful for you guys to be able to use. All right, so I'll just make a last call for questions for today. So if you have any further questions, speak now or forever hold your peace. This is actually the last implementation workshop for this year's class, so I hope you remember that you've always got, and you'll notice when you go into Market Pro Max, at every page basically you've got your support help desk email. So if you run into a technical problem or a technical question, they're there, the team is there to help. And I love the fact that people, you know, I get emails all the time just saying how good the team is, so we're thrilled about that, and we pride ourselves on that. And of course that doesn't stop now that the implementation workshop series is over. That is something that is a, you know, all the round, every part of the year, except we do take a break over the Christmas New Year period, like everybody else does. So, but apart from that, the team is there and ready to help at any time and any particular notice period. So I'll just do a last check here of any event questions, see if any of you have popped any more in there. No, everybody's good today, which is fantastic. Look, I hope you really experiment with webinars, because it is such a powerful medium. It really is fantastic. I can't talk about it highly enough. I know it's something that we do a lot of with the next challenge. We'll be doing a lot of webinars, because getting that feedback will work really, really well. Oh, we've just got one last question in. Just I noticed popped in here, and that's the cool thing about the live event control. It just, you don't have to like refresh and hit buttons and so like that. Question will pop up, and it asks, will Webinar Jam work with Market Pro Max? The answer is a big yes. It does work with Webinar Jam, so that's no problem. You just have to get the embed code for Webinar Jam and pop it in, and you can use that system as well. They're asking how, and the other question that's just popped in here too is, how do I get that banner here? And that is a function of Google Hangouts. Very simple to do. In fact, if you're really super fancy, you can actually get your own design. The one I'm using is actually just a simple built-in one, but you can easily create actually really snazzy lower third banners and have that as part of the Google Hangout. And again, you'll see this in the Google Hangout explanation video where we show you how we set everything up. There's so many things you can do in a Google Hangout. That's why I really love it and recommend it, because not only can you do the Google Hangout part itself like we're doing now, there are so many plugins where third-party developers have built plugins for Google Hangout, so you can do all sorts of, all sorts of other things. I'm just clicking in here. You can capture screenshots. You've got cameraman control, so when you've got multiple people, you can switch between them just like a director would in a movie studio. You can control chats. There's Doodle. You can have a virtual whiteboard. All those sorts of things. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do as part of this. So it's wonderful. It works really, really well. All right, folks. With that, thank you very much. It's been a thrill to have you all on board this class. Again, don't forget, support is there to help if you get stuck on a technical issue. Thrilled to have had the opportunity to work with you during this series, and of course, reminder that if you ever want to refer, these live implementation workshops are available on each of the module pages once we pop them up there. Usually it takes a day or so for us to pop them up, and then they'll be there. So with that, thank you very much. I can't wait to see what you do. If you've got a new site that you've created using Ultimate Product System and Market Pro Max, please shoot me a link on Twitter. I love to help promote people and let people know. Twitter's the best way to do it. At @ed_Dale is my Twitter handle, and I'd love to see what you're doing and tell people about it. So make sure you do that and let me know how you're going. All right, with that, ciao for now. Sign off, and thank you for being part of Ultimate Product System.